shut down, but we still go live, and here we are.
Good afternoon, and welcome to yet another Wellthy conversation with myself, Dr. Dineo and Tim Wagner. Together, we are the coaches of Wellthy, and Wellthy is all about bringing corporate wellness solutions to the company environment. We have been on a mission in the past few weeks to interview every HR manager we possibly can, to find out what is it about these employee well-being initiatives that is either not working, and what is it that HR managers think is actually best, what has worked, what isn't working, and what can be done to better serve their employees. So if you are tuning in, feel free to pop us some questions, pop us your comments, your thoughts, and make sure to catch these interviews live every single week on a Wednesday, 1 p.m. sharp. Tim, what have you got for us today?
Oh, it's been a very interesting conversational week that I've had with HR professionals from Ghana and Tanzania. And it's been
Amazing.
very interesting to see the different responses coming from the questions from the different countries. Yeah. So as you said, we're here live, but there's also the recordings, not only on LinkedIn, but on YouTube as well. So if you missed what our conversation was last week, and also some of the recordings from the amazing people who have been sharing so openly and said, yes, I don't mind being recorded. We've also put that onto our YouTube channel, and also follow Wellthy on LinkedIn. The links are going to be below in the comments. So yeah, that's the advertorial done. Now let's talk about the nuts and bolts of this. And the title I put for this week was that executives aren't listening. HR know what's going on. But the theme, and you asked me if there's a theme last week, but the theme is coming up that executives aren't listening, which is quite scary.
Sure.
But there's two key quotes that I want to pick up from two of the people that I interviewed. One was Carl, phenomenal interview that I had with him. And he's got this quote. He says, changing lives and making a difference. That's his tagline. I love that. Changing lives and making a difference.
Making a difference.
How's that for an HR tagline? That's his.
Interesting, coming from an HR person, hey?
Yeah. Then the second, now, if that doesn't embody everything about well-being, I don't know what does. Then the other one was from Jesse from Ghana, where he had a previous employer where he says that my employees are a reflection of me. My employees are a reflection of me. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit, because that one really caught my attention. And that was what a previous employer of his had said, which really, again, sets the benchmark around employee well-being and psychological safety. If ever I've had one. Yeah. Sure. Here's what jumps up as quite interesting.
Yes.
Tanzania going through a huge economic change, quite a boom that I understand, with a lot of investment coming in. And same as Ghana as well. Last week, it's very much around Tanzania and Ghana, interestingly enough. I don't know, it's just the way that it seems to be led. A lot of international companies coming into Africa and investing in Africa. But there was two key differences that I picked up. One, where it was the government's getting involved, and the other one where there weren't. Now, you and I are in South Africa.
Yep.
When our government gets involved in companies, what happens to the company?
Deteriorates.
It tanks. Look at Eskom, look at SAA, look at the Postal Service, look at Telkom. All the parastatals, all the government organizations that they run, tank.
Yeah.
what has happened in Tanzania, and there's a link to the HR, to the employee well-being and psychological safety, is that what the Tanzanian government noticed was that the internationals of companies were coming in. They were buying up the small organizations and setting up large companies. So the large companies were taking over from the smaller ones, so that the smaller companies having far more of a personal touch. The bigger companies losing that. So the government started to step in and say, but hold on a second. This is about our resources, not only the physical resources, but the human resources as well, and started to invest a lot into education, healthcare, community services for the workers, the blue-collar workers, the line staff workers. And what was interesting there was the thread that I've seen before, where large companies are providing medical care for their teams and their staff. So medically, they're getting taken care of. When they're sick, they've got a card. The government pays for, or the company's paying for some sort of medical aid, medical care. And you're a medical doctor, understanding one of the biggest strains on a family, especially the blue-collar workers where they don't have the spare income, is healthcare. Am I right?
100%.
So now you've got Tanzania stepping in and saying to these large companies that are coming in and taking over that, hold on, we're going to come in as well, sometimes partnering, sometimes actually now taking over and running the companies. Very interesting. Difference in South Africa compared to Tanzania. And apparently, I'm not a economist. I wouldn't know how successful, but very well, because they're bringing in and looking after the human element as well, the healthcare side of things. However, not the psychological safety. So they seem to be missing. There's a miss. Looking after the healthcare, okay, the education, but not the psychological safety.
Right.
And that goes to culture.
So both are key.
And that's what the HR said is happening, is there's a miss in the psychological safety side. There's a miss in the culture. The top, and here's a theme. Here's a theme. We spoke about this before. It's coming up. And that's the title of today. The executives are disconnected from the managers and the line staff.
Sure.
Now, I had this before where the executives are earning the money. So their expendable income for lifestyle outside of the basic needs of food and shelter, they've got a greater expenditure. So they don't understand at the top the problem that the blue-collar workers, the line staff, the managerial, the actual working team who are producing the results, they're disconnected with understanding of what their needs are, because they are spending a greater proportion of their salary on food and shelter and have nothing left for the rest. So as I was told last week, the executives are saying, we give you a job. What do you mean you're burning out? Well, they're burning out because there's a complete imbalance between what the executives have got and what they've got. And there's a disconnect. Here's where it continues. And this was quite scary. Here's a big one, which was, we had a very interesting conversation about it. I don't think I've put it out live. I've got 2 recordings I've still got to put out, where in Ghana, the Chinese companies are coming in and taking over.
Coming into the
country and taking over the companies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're investing in the companies. Lovely. But it's profits before people. This is not the first time it's come up, where the company is prioritizing and saying, not that they're not saying it, we don't care about the people, but they're taking the profits. The HR is telling me the company has the money to invest back into their people, be it education, be it housing, be it medical. but more than just the well-being, it's the psychological safety side of things as well. And they are pulling out the money to the detriment of the people.
Yep. That's quite interesting, Tim, because I think what tends to happen is, like these companies are doing, is you would think that if you take care of their health, education, etc., it's almost like you're done. That's it, right? But the fact that you point out that psychological safety on its own is a different entity that also needs its own attention is quite an interesting thing, right? Which speaks to really interrogating all the needs of your employees and making sure that you're constantly assessing, are we meeting their needs? What needs do they have? What do they feel we're still lacking in?
What needs do they have? And that's what we spoke about last week, where the recommendation came from two of the HR professionals saying, ask your people. Don't assume this is what they need. Ask, what are their needs? And listen to last week's recording for a brilliant example of what one bank was doing. I think it was in Ghana. I can't remember what bank was doing. Have a listen to that, thinking out the box, what their needs are. But most definitely that and you're right, we're looking at this, that there's a clear distinction. Should there be a separation between well-being and psychological safety? They're put together, but are they actually two separate things?
Sure.
That's going to be, I'm going to bring that question forward. Any comments or thoughts of that? Really interesting to read them. So where am I going? I've just got a couple of notes on here just to see. The disconnection, and this is coming up over and over and over again, the disconnection between the owners, the executives, the senior people, and then the middle line and the lower line. The mass disconnection between the priorities of what each person's individual requirements are at that level is the top not understanding what the bottom are the actual needs are. And so that's when there's a disconnect and they're not getting that, which sort of, and I'm going to link this into back what I spoke at the beginning, which means that the company not understanding the value of the asset in the human side, in the personal side, that people almost become, my words, expendable. That's the word I'm looking for. The last word, expendable. Why? Because China comes in, Chinese companies buy out a company in Ghana, for example, and I think this would just be an example of a country. I'd feel that it's happening in many countries in Africa. And why? Because there's a mass workforce, massive unemployment. So they're not really bothered. Because if you leave, well, I'll just get somebody else. So people can't afford to leave, so they struggle through the burnout stages of existence until they are physically, mentally, emotionally broken. But the company just goes, well, there's plenty more people. We'll just train some more. We just bring them in because there's such a big workforce.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
very interesting. Interesting there.
I said earlier on a quote from one of the interviews that I had where he said that my employees are a reflection of me. Now, this led to a very interesting discussion, which links to something we discussed last week as well.
Yes.
Employees must be brand ambassadors of your company.
Wow.
Where an employee is feeling seen, heard, and valued,
yes,
they're going to be proud of the uniform they're wearing. They're going to share with their friends and family of the great company they work for. What is the result of that? Higher turnover or lower staff turnover? People are going to stay in their job, right?
No.
Are they going to be more engaged or disengaged? You have a look at the statistics where Gallup has put out, as many of these research organizations have put out, where they've shared the statistics about how people who are burning out become disengaged, where a vast increase in middle management are disengaging. I think it's now the statistics last year was 63% or more. No, it was 73% of middle management are disengaged from their work, and 80% of line staff are impacted by managers being disengaged. So once they're disengaged, they're not brand ambassadors. So they're talking badly about their company. They're out there and they're moaning about their job. They're moaning about their boss. But all the people that they're moaning to, how many of those are actually customers or could be customers of that company? Right. So you as a company can go in, you can spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on marketing. But if on the ground roots, people are just bad-mouthing you because you're not looking after the team, because your greatest ambassadors, your greatest marketers, are they not your employees?
Very powerful information there. I see Kim has dropped some comments there saying psychological safety is so important. Staff are becoming disengaged when they don't feel psychologically safe. I am seeing this with mothers as well as fathers. Quite interesting that psychological safety is a thing not just in the workplace, eh?
At home as well. So true.
At home.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Very, very.
I've been asked to do a talk on work-life balance. But hold on a second, isn't it life? They're not. Why is work
not mutually
right? They're not. They're connected. Who here? Tell me your experience. Have you ever been able to 100% keep work at home and home?
Sure.
It's life. So there has to be that integration. There is most definitely an overlap. So Kim, thanks for the comments there. Because what impacts you at work is going to impact you at home. What impacts at home is going to impact you at work, psychologically, emotionally, physically, spiritually, the whole being. Yeah. So this is not only about the employer-employee relationship. It is also what happens at home.
100%. Sure. Some interesting insights there, Tim. Thank you so much. And I think, again, it speaks to bringing holistic solutions, right? You were asking the question, should psychological safety and, health and health education be two separate entities, or should they actually be one thing, right? Should everything be accounted for in one sitting?
Yes.
So quite interesting insights there. And this psychological safety that keeps coming up again and again and again and again and again, that people need to feel safe. And I think it's so important that the way you treat your employees will automatically play out there. They will automatically be brand ambassadors where, again, they feel seen, they feel heard, they feel cared for. It will automatically happen. So incredible insights there. And your closing sentiments?
Having a look at where the themes are throughout. And you asked me last week, is there a theme? I said, I don't know. Let's have a look. I haven't looked at it. Is keeping an open mind and actually having these open-ended conversations with the HR professionals is leading to other insights that I would have never have looked at and thought.
100%.
So we are getting a bit of a consistency going here, but I'm going to leave it open and look forward to other HR professionals to share openly. So if you're listening to this and you would like to be interviewed, or you've got viewpoints that you feel that you'd like to share, maybe you're looking for a platform, maybe you want to keep it anonymous, entirely up to you. Please reach out to us. We want to hear from you as well. Thank you very much, Dr. D. Appreciate your time and insights. And this is great. This is great.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Tim, for all these valuable insights that you're bringing from these various HR. Nilani Naidu, we see you there with your comment. Thank you so much. Please do keep the conversation going down in the comment section. Be sure to watch these recordings and share with everyone in your communities as well. Be sure to catch us again for another Wellthy conversation next week, Wednesday, same time, 1 p.m. sharp. From us,
Ciao for now.
it's goodbye.